Why is she here, Dad? After everything, why now? Henry sat down beside her, choosing his words carefully. Your mother. She's in trouble, she needed help, and I couldn't turn my back on her. I know she hurt us, Grace, but sometimes people make mistakes and they realize it too late. Grace's eyes flashed with anger. She left us, Dad. She left you. She left me. And now, after all these years, she just gets to walk back into our lives like nothing happened. Linda sat nervously in the dimly lit restaurant, her eyes darting to the door every second. She had arrived early, partly out of fear. The last few days had been a blur, escaping Mark's clutches, Henry's unexpected reply, and now this moment. She was about to face the man she had betrayed, the man she had once loved, and the father of her child. When Henry finally walked through the door, her breath caught in her throat. He looked different, more mature, more confident than the man she had remembered. His strides were steady. His face carried the weight of years of responsibility. As he approached the table, Linda felt the sting of guilt return. She had walked out on this man, left him to pick up the pieces of a broken family, while she chased after illusion of luxury with Mark. Henry sat down without a word, his expression unreadable. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, the silence between them heavy with everything they hadn't said over the years. Linda wanted to speak, to apologize, but the words couldn't come. Her throat felt tight, her emotions tangled. Finally, Henry broke the silence. So you're really here, he said, his voice low and steady but distant. Linda nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the edge of the table. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know who else to turn to, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Henry's eyes flickered with something, maybe anger, maybe pity, but he kept his tone neutral. And now you're here, after all this time. Why now, Linda? Why come back after everything? Tears welled up in Linda's eyes, and she quickly wiped them away, determined not to break down. I made a terrible mistake. I thought Mark was the answer, but he wasn't. He's not who I thought he was. I'm trapped, Henry. I need help. I just want to be free of him, she confessed, her voice trembling with emotions. Henry looked down at the table for a long moment, his fingers tracing the edge of the glass. You left us, Linda. You left me. You left Grace, he said quietly. You didn't just walk away from a marriage. You walked away from your family. Linda swallowed hard, the weight of his words pressing down on her. I know, and I can never undo that. I can never take back the pain I caused you or Grace. But please, Henry, I'm begging you. I need your help. I don't have anyone else. Henry's expression softened just slightly, and for the first time since he arrived, he let out a long sigh. Grace doesn't know about this. I haven't told her anything. She doesn't need to be dragged into this right now. Linda nodded, grateful for the consideration. I understand. I don't want to hurt her more than I already have. After a long pause, Henry finally spoke again. You can stay at my place tonight. Grace is away at school, so she won't know. But this is temporary, Linda. I don't know what the future holds, but I can't make any promises. Linda blinked back tears and managed a small grateful smile. Thank you, Henry. I can't thank you enough. Henry didn't respond. He simply stood up, signaling that it was time to leave. As they walked out of the restaurant together, Linda couldn't help but feel the weight of what she had lost and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The reunion had been bittersweet, but she was grateful for the small chance to rebuild, even if it was for a fragile and temporary moment. That night, Henry brought her back to his house. The home was warm and welcoming, a reflection of the new life he had built for himself and Grace. Linda felt like a stranger as she stepped inside, the memories of the past clashing with the reality of the present. She had once been part of this world, and now she didn't belong. As Henry showed her to the guest room, Linda's heart ached with regret. This wasn't her home anymore. She had given up that right long ago, but for now, it was a place of refuge, a place where she could gather her thoughts and figure out her next move. As she lay down that night, Linda stared at the ceiling, knowing that the danger wasn't over. Mark wouldn't let her go so easily. While Linda found temporary safety at Henry's house, Mark was spiraling into a dangerous frenzy. Rage consumed him. He smashed a vase against the wall, the glass shattering across the floor like his carefully constructed facade of control. How dare she leave him? After everything he had done for her, after everything he had provided, she had the audacity to walk out. Mark wasn't the type to let things slide. He saw Linda as his possession, something that belonged to him, and him alone. If she thought she could escape, she was sorely mistaken. He paced the room like a caged animal, his mind racing with thoughts of revenge. His anger grew with each passing minute. Linda had humiliated him, and he wouldn't rest until she was back where she belonged, under his control. The thought of her finding refuge with someone else made his blood boil. He wasn't just going to find her, he was going to make her regret ever crossing him. Mark's obsession with reclaiming Linda grew darker by the day. He had resources, and he knew how to use them. His network of contact extended far beyond his business dealing. He called in favors, pulling strings back to track her down. It was only a matter of time before he found her, and when he did, there would be no mercy. Linda, still recovering from the trauma of her escape, felt the looming shadow of Mark's presence. She knew he wouldn't stop. She knew it was only a matter of time before he came for her. Each passing day felt like a countdown, with the threat of his revenge hanging over her like a storm cloud. Henry, too, sensed danger. Though he hadn't said it out loud, he knew Mark wouldn't let Linda go easily. He kept his distance emotionally, knowing that involving himself too deeply could put him and Grace in harm's way. But he couldn't turn his back completely, not when Linda was clearly in danger. As the days passed, the tension mounted. Mark was getting closer, and Linda knew that she had to be ready for whatever came next. But for the first time in years, she wasn't facing the nightmare alone. Henry was there, even if only from a distance, and that small glimmer of support gave her the strength to keep fighting. The battle wasn't over. In fact, it was just the beginning. The sun was beginning to set when Grace returned home from school. Her mind focused on the assignments due and the group project she had to finish. It had been a long week, and all she wanted was some quiet time at home. As she entered the house, however, something felt off. Grace stopped in her tracks when she saw her mother Linda sitting awkwardly on the living room couch. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The woman who had abandoned her years ago, the woman who had chosen wealth over family, was sitting right there in their home. Linda looked up, her eyes meeting Grace, but no words were exchanged. Grace's heart raced as anger, hurt, and confusion swelled inside of her. She clenched her fist, fighting back the urge to scream or cry. Without saying a word, she turned on her heel and walked straight to her room, her footsteps heavy with resentment. Henry, who had been standing by the door watching the scene unfold, sighed deeply. He knew this was going to be hard for Grace. He had hoped to prepare her, but Linda's sudden appearance had thrown everything off course. He followed Grace to her room, tapping lightly on the door before entering. "Grace," he began softly, "I know this is a lot to take in." Grace sat on the bed, staring at the floor, her arms crossed defensively. "Why is she here, Dad? After everything, why now?" Henry sat down beside her, choosing his words carefully. "Your mother. She's in trouble, she needed help, and I couldn't turn my back on her. I know she hurt us, Grace, but sometimes people make mistakes and they realize it too late." Grace's eyes flashed with anger. "She left us, Dad. She left you. She left me. And now, after all these years, she just gets to walk back into our lives like nothing happened." Henry placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's not that simple. She's been through a lot, and I'm not saying you have to forgive her right away. I didn't want her to suffer alone." Grace shook her head, her emotions in turmoil. "I don't know if I can ever forgive her, Dad. She broke our family, and I can't forget that." "I understand," Henry replied, "but just take your time. You don't have to decide how you feel right now." Grace didn't respond, but her mind was racing. Seeing her mother again had opened old wounds she thought she had healed. Now, she wasn't sure how to feel. The abandonment, the pain, it all came rushing back. But deep down, she also felt a flicker of something else. Was it curiosity, or perhaps the desire to understand why her mother had made the choices she did? For now, Grace couldn't sort through her emotions. She just needed space. The days that followed were awkward to say the least. Linda stayed at Henry's house, and though the tension between them slowly eased, it was clear that the past still hung heavily over their heads. Linda's deep regret was obvious. She expressed it in every word, every action. Henry found himself softening towards her despite the years of hurt. There was still a connection between them, a shared history that hadn't completely faded away. Grace, however, remained distant. She avoided her mother as much as possible, staying out of the house for long periods or retreating to her room. When she did interact with Linda, the conversations were short and stilted. Linda didn't push, knowing that Grace needed time, but her heart ached for the daughter she had lost. One evening, as Henry and Linda sat in the living room, talking quietly about the past, Fumi arrived. She hadn't expected anything unusual when she came over to see Henry, but when she walked into the apartment, she saw Linda sitting there, her face dropped. "Hi," Fumi blurted out, shock written all over her face. The room fell silent, tension rising as the awkwardness settled between them. Linda, feeling uncomfortable, stood up. "I will give you two some privacy," she said softly, excusing herself to the guest room. Fumi watched Linda leave, her mind spinning with the whirlwind of emotions. When Linda was finally out of sight, she turned to Henry, trying her best to stay composed, though her voice betrayed the hurt she felt. "Why didn't you tell me she was back?" Fumi's words were sharp, but there was a tremble underneath. Henry sighed deeply, rubbing his temples as if trying to ease the tension in his head. He had known this conversation was coming, but that didn't make it any easier. "Fumi, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to tell you. It's just complicated." Fumi crossed her arms, her frustration clear. "Complicated? Henry, you were supposed to help her, not bring her into your home. You could have put her in a hotel or a serviced apartment." Henry shook his head, already expecting her reaction. "That wouldn't be safe. Mark is dangerous for me. I can't leave her alone out there, vulnerable." Fumi's eyebrows furrowed, her patience wearing thin. "And that's exactly why she shouldn't be here. You're risking too much, your life, your daughter's safety. There are other ways, Henry." "I know," Henry said softly, "but Linda is still my wife. We never divorced. Somehow I feel like I still owe it to her. I can't just abandon her." Fumi blinked, stunned by his words. "Still your wife?" she repeated. I told him, filled with disbelief. "So all this time, we've been together and you're technically still married?" Henry swallowed hard. "I didn't mean for things to come out like this. I really thought everything with Linda was over. But now, after everything she's been through, I feel like I have to help her." Fumi's voice softened slightly, but the pain in her eyes was unmistakable. "Do you still love her, Henry?" Henry hesitated, then answered, "That doesn't matter right now. What matters is that she needs help." Fumi's lips pressed into thin line. She nodded slowly, but her face showed the hurt she was trying so hard to keep inside. "Henry, I love you. I really do. But I can't be part of this. I can't be in the middle of a love triangle, especially when you're still figuring out your feelings for her." Henry opened his mouth to protest, but Fumi held up her hand, stopping him. "No," she said firmly, her voice steady. "You need to figure out what you really want, Henry. When you've made your decision, let me know. But until then, I can't be involved in this." With that, Fumi turned and walked away, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision she had just made. She loved Henry deeply, but she couldn't stand by and watch him wrestle with his feelings for another woman. She left the apartment, the door closing softly behind her. Henry was left alone, torn between the past and the future. Unknown to them, Linda had been eavesdropping on their conversation from the hallway. When she overheard Henry say that they were still legally married, something stirred inside her, a small flicker of hope, a possibility that maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. As Fumi walked out of the door, Linda retreated to her room, her mind racing. Could there be a chance for reconciliation? Could she rebuild what she had destroyed? For the first time in years, Linda dared to hope. The hope was fragile, and the way ahead was far from clear. Mark was sitting with fury. He could hardly believe Linda had left to leave him. For years, he had controlled her every move, And now she thought she could just walk away. No, Mark wasn't going to let this happen. His obsession with her grew darker as he used his every resource at his disposal to find her. His connection in the city's underworld made it all too easy for him to track her down. But what disturbed Linda the most were the chilling threats he left in his messages. The phone calls were frequent now, his voice a menacing whisper on the other end. "You think you can hide, Linda? I will find you, and when I do, you will wish you never left." He didn't stop there though. He made it clear that Henry and Grace were now in his crosshairs too. "I know where they live. If you don't come back, I'll make sure they pay the price." Linda's heart raced with fear. Every time she heard the phone ring, her pulse quickened, her hands trembling as she considered the danger Mark posed to not just her, but the people she had dragged into this nightmare. Henry, who had shown her kindness when she least deserved it, and Grace, her daughter, who had been so deeply wounded by her actions, what had she done? Living in Henry's house became a constant state of alert. Linda never slept through the night anymore. Every creak in the floorboards, every passing car outside sent her into a spiral of panic. She could feel Mark closing in on her, his presence like a shadow that lingered wherever she went. Henry too began to realize the full extent of Mark's strength. He had thought he was just dealing with an angry ex, but this was something far more dangerous. Mark was a man unhinged, capable of anything. The more Henry learned, the more he understood how much of a real threat Mark posed to his and Grace's safety. He had to act fast before things got out of control. The tension in the house grew, but there was no easy solution. How could they stop a man like Mark from destroying everything? Henry considered going to the police, but Linda begged him not to. "You don't know him like I do. The police won't stop him. You'll find a way to come after us," she said, her voice shaking with fear. Henry knew she was right. The situation was growing more dangerous by the day, and wars were closing in. It was only a matter of time before Mark found them. But one night, after days of nerve-wracking tension, Mark appeared. Linda had thought she could escape him, but now he was here, standing on Henry's doorstep, his eyes wild with rage. Linda froze when she saw him, every muscle in her body tense with terror. "I told you, Linda, you can't run from me," Mark said, his voice cold and dripping with malice. Henry stepped between them, blocking Mark from entering. "Get out of here," Henry warned, his voice steady, but inside he could feel the fear gnawing at him. Mark wasn't intimidated. Instead, he smiled, an unsettling grin that made the hair on the back of Henry's neck stand up. "You think you can protect her? You have no idea what I'm capable of." The two men stared down at each other, the tension thick in the air. Grace, who had been upstairs, heard the commotion and came rushing down, her heart pounding. When she saw Mark, her blood ran cold. For the first time, she truly understood the danger her mother was in. "You need to leave now," Henry repeated, his voice firmer this time, trying to keep the situation from escalating. But Mark wasn't going anywhere. He lunged forward, shoving Henry out of the way, and chaos erupted. Linda screamed as the confrontation turned violent. Grace, though hurt by her mother's abandonment, couldn't just stand by and watch. She ran to her mother's side, her emotions swelling in a storm of fear, anger and confusion. As the struggle continued, something unexpected happened. Mark's arrogance had blinded him to the fact that his past was catching up to him. Just as he was about to overpower Henry, the sound of police sirens blared from outside the house. Mark's face paled for the first time. Henry had anticipated this, sensing that Mark would eventually show up. One lady had been too scared to go to the police. Henry had taken matters into his own hands. He had alerted the authorities earlier in the day, knowing that the only way to stop Mark was through the law. The police had been monitoring the situation, waiting for Mark to make his move. As the officers burst through the door, Mark's brother crumbled. His secret, what even that had known, began to unravel. He told her that Mark wasn't just a wealthy businessman. He had been involved in a series of illegal activities, and now everything was coming to light. His empire was crumbling, and there was no way out for him, especially this time. Linda watched in shock as the police handcuffed Mark and led him away, his threats now powerless. For the first time in many years, she felt a weight lift from her chest. It was over. The nightmare was finally over. As the door closed behind the police, Linda turned to Henry, tears in her eyes. She didn't know what the future held for her, or if Henry and Grace would ever truly forgive her. But for now, she had a chance to rebuild, to escape the darkness that had consumed her life for so long. After the dramatic events that unfolded, things in Henry's house began to settle, but the tension between him and Linda remained. There were long, quiet evenings where they both sat in the same room, yet worlds apart. The weight of their shared history was too heavy to ignore, and while the situation with Mark had forced them back into each other's lives, Henry knew deep down that they couldn't return to the way things were. One evening, Henry sat Linda down for a serious conversation. She could tell from the look in his eyes that it was going to be difficult. "Linda, I have been thinking about everything. About us, about the past," Henry began, his voice soft but firm. "You've been through a lot and I'm glad you're safe now, but I can't pretend that things can go back the way they were." Linda's eyes dropped to the floor. She had hoped deep down that maybe there was a chance. After everything, after Henry had come to her rescue, maybe, just maybe they could start again, but she could hear the finality in his voice. "I have forgiven you," Henry continued, "and I will always care for you, but we are different people now, and I have moved on." He slid a set of divorce papers across the table towards her. The sight of them made her heart sink. She hadn't expected this, even though part of her had known it was coming. "It's time for both of us to move forward with our lives," he said gently. "You deserve to rebuild, to find happiness again, but definitely not with me." Tears welled up in Linda's eyes, but she nodded, understanding. She couldn't deny the truth. She signed the papers with trembling hands, each stroke of the pen feeling like she was closing a chapter of her life that she had once thought would never end. Later that evening, Grace returned from school, unaware of what had transpired. Linda had been dreading the moment when she would have to face her daughter again, knowing that their relationship was perhaps the most fragile of all. Grace, who had once idolized her mother, now struggled to reconcile the woman who had left her with the woman who had returned, broken and desperate. Grace found Linda sitting alone in the porch, staring out into the night. There was a tense silence between them before Grace finally spoke. "I heard what happened today," Grace said. "Dad told me." Linda couldn't turn to look at her, too ashamed to meet her daughter's eyes. "I'm so sorry, Grace, for everything." "I know," Grace said, her voice still holding some of the anger she had felt for years. "And I want to forgive you. I do, but I need space. I need time." Linda nodded, her heart heavy but understanding completely. Grace had been through so much, and she didn't expect her to just let go of all the hurt. "You don't have to forgive me now," Linda whispered. "Just live your life. I'll always be here if you ever need me." Grace stood for a moment longer before walking back into the house, leaving Linda alone in the quiet night. It was a painful moment, but it was also a step towards healing for the both of them. Henry didn't expect to hear from Fumi so soon after everything had happened. After their last conversation, he assumed she would need time, just like Grace. But a few days later, she called him. "Can we meet?" Fumi asked, her voice cautious, as if unsure how he would respond. Henry agreed, and they met at a small restaurant downtown, the place where they had shared countless moments over the past few months. When Fumi walked in, there was an awkward tension between them at first, but the familiarity of their connection soon began to ease the discomfort. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Fumi began, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup, "about Linda and everything you've been through." Henry listened quietly, unsure of where this conversation was heading. "I know that what you did for Linda, for Grace, was the right thing. You were being a good man, but I couldn't stand being caught in the middle of all of that," Fumi said, her voice soft but steady. "And I needed to step back and figure out what I want." Henry nodded. "I understand you, Fumi. I didn't mean for any of this to hurt you." She smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. "I know you didn't, and the truth is I love you, Henry. But I also need to know that if we are going to move forward, it's just the two of us. No more ghosts from the past." Henry reached across the table and took her hand. "It's just us, Fumi. Linda and I, that's over. I've made peace with it, and we are moving forward. I want to be with you. No more complications. Fumi searched his face for any sign of doubt, but she saw none. She squeezed his hand back, relief and warmth spreading through her chest. I'm glad to hear that, she said softly, because I don't want to lose you, Henry. I don't. As they sat there hand in hand, Henry felt a sense of peace. The storm that had been raging in their life for so long was finally calming. He had made his choices, difficult ones, but now he could see the path ahead more clearly. It wasn't perfect and there were still challenges to face, but for the first time in a long time, Henry felt hopeful. Fumi was still there, and together they would build something new, something free from the shadows of the past. In the weeks that followed, life began to settle into a new routine for Henry, Fumi and Grace. The weight of the past had lifted, and while some scars would always remain, there was a sense of hope and healing in the air. Grace focused on her studies, channeling her energy into the university life. She found solace in her friends and her new hobbies. Slowly, the bond with her mother began to mend. Though it was a cautious process, they spoke more often and each conversation was a step towards understanding. Grace even visited Linda occasionally, helping her adjust to her new life and giving her encouragement as she worked to rebuild herself. Linda, now living in a modest apartment, focused on her growth. She enrolled in a support group for women who had experienced abusive relationships, and through this, she found strength in sharing her story. It was challenging, but Linda was determined to regain her independence. She started a small online business, selling handmade crafts, pouring her energy into creating a stable life for herself. With each success, she felt a little more like the person she was meant to be, a woman capable of standing on her own. Meanwhile, Henry and Fumi deepened their relationship. They went on weekend outings, exploring new restaurants, hiking trails and visiting art galleries. Every moment spent together helps them bond further, allowing them to build trust and affection. Fumi became a part of Grace's life too, attending her events and cheering her on in her academic achievements. One sunny Sunday afternoon, as they sat in a park enjoying the ice cream, Henry looked at Fumi, feeling grateful for how far they have come. I can't imagine my life without you now, he said sincerely, taking her hand in his. Fumi smiled, her eyes shining. I feel the same way, and I'm so glad we found our way to each other. As they shared a laugh, Grace approached, her expressions curious. What are you two talking about? She asked, grinning. Henry and Fumi exchanged a knowing glance. Just making plans for the future, Fumi replied. Grace raised an eyebrow. Future plans? What kind of plans? Henry chuckled, ruffling Grace's hair playfully. Plans to take over the world, of course. Grace rolled her eyes, but the joy on her face was unmistakable. It was a perfect moment, filled with laughter and love. The story teaches that forgiveness is a powerful tool for healing. Henry and Grace learn to forgive Linda, which allows them to let go of the pain from the past and move forward. Linda also learns that forgiving herself is essential for healing, allowing her to let go of past mistakes and move forward. This act of forgiveness opens the door for new beginnings, showing that it is possible to start afresh even after experiencing a toxic relationship. The story also emphasized the power of new beginnings. Linda's journey from a toxic relationship to a healthier life showcases resilience and self-discovery. She finds the strength to rebuild her life and seek better opportunities, illustrating that it is never too late to change one's path. Ultimately, the story conveys that while our paths may shape us, it does not have to define our future. Understanding empathy and the courage to choose a better path can lead to personal growth and renewed hope. The character's journey reminds us that we have the power to change our lives and that it is never too late to pursue happiness and fulfillment. The story teaches that forgiveness is a powerful tool for healing. Henry and Grace learn to forgive Linda, which allows them to let go of the pain from the past and move forward. Linda also learns that forgiving herself is essential for healing, allowing her to let go of past mistakes and move forward. This act of forgiveness opens the door for new beginnings, showing that it is possible to start afresh even after experiencing a toxic relationship. The story also emphasized the power of new beginnings. Linda's journey from a toxic relationship to a healthier life showcases resilience and self-discovery. She finds the strength to rebuild her life and seek better opportunities, illustrating that it is never too late to change one's path. Ultimately, the story conveys that while our paths may shape us, it does not have to define our future. Understanding empathy and the courage to choose a better path can lead to personal growth and renewed hope. The character's journey reminds us that we have the power to change our lives and that it is never too late to pursue happiness and fulfillment. Thank you so much for watching this fantastic story on African Stories by Tiana. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing stories. See you next time.